picture my crown chakra opening like a little window. And so I did this, and I pictured this white light coming to me. And of course, were involved. And it said the first question that came to my mind to focus on it. And the first question that came to my mind was, why do I always feel unworthy because I was adopted? And I thought I'd reckoned with that a long time ago, but it popped into my mind, so I went with it. So I'm laying there in this what I'm picturing, and all of a sudden, like I was in the zone, and all of a sudden this male voice, really strong male voice, said, "You were always worthy," almost scolding me. "You were always worthy. They couldn't have you, and so I had to find another way." It still gives me goosebumps thinking about it.
That is anomalous. That is very, 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 very cool.
Uh-huh. And it changed my life. It changed the way I think about myself.
Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of the way it happened for me as well. Meditation is of key importance. At one point in time, when we were still able to facilitate it, we had a free guided meditation that we offered at our shop. And that's a lot of the way it is that we would guide people into meditations and such. And you'd be amazed at how many people are capable of opening up to higher levels of consciousness when you're able to lead them in that path. It's absolutely amazing as to how it is that we can come up with such phenomenal insight and information. And I do believe that everyone in this world is naturally psychic. There might be different degrees of it for people than others, but ultimately I think that we're all predisposed and capable of being able to use psychic ability. I actually think that our society pounds it into our head that we're not supposed to so much that it actually eliminates it. Mm-hmm. It actually diminishes it in us, and we only wind up getting these little glimpses of it unless we decide to, merge ourselves with the metaphysical world itself and engage in things like meditation. And I always wondered why it is that in spiritual practices of Western civilizations, why it's so frowned upon to meditate. I mean, it's such a beautiful tool for enlightenment.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, to answer your question, that is very similar to the way it is that it works for me. It wasn't until I started meditating on a regular basis that I learned to trust in that voice inside of me and what it was showing me and what it was telling me. I didn't always like what it was telling me, but I learned how to, trust that what it was telling me was something that I needed. Right. Henceforth, again, like when I talked about reading for other people and reading for yourself is probably the most difficult challenge you could ever face in giving readings, because you're already, invested in time, energy, resources, and sentiments and feelings and such, giving a reading, to someone that you care about or to yourself.
Right. So, it's funny how a lot of people automatically relate card reading and psychic abilities to a dark force when it's actually, well, I guess it's true with some people, but most it's the opposite, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, of course, you do have your exceptions to every rule. I'm not going to say that everyone that's out there that reads cards or performs psychic readings is doing it for the right reasons and the right intentions, because that would be ridiculous. People are people. But ultimately, the primary goal of reading cards and engaging into mysticism should be and is for me to achieve a degree of personal enlightenment, and if I can spread that enlightenment to the rest of the world, then, so be it. And I've, then it's a life lived for a reason. But yeah, I think that, hype and hysteria that comes from Hollywood and the entertainment industry is a lot to blame for the wrongful view that people have so often of what mysticism and card readings and engaging in anything metaphysical is all about.
Right. Yep, I have to agree with you there. So you just have to walk your own personal journey and know what's right inside. You know, and all the great philosophers and teachers and mystics all say go within for the answers, not without. And I know with you, I know that you'll agree with me that you have to go within for your own happiness, your own security. You can't rely on other people to bring you that peace and that joy. It has to be within you to begin with.
Yeah, and that's probably the biggest dilemma that I face in reference to reading for people. Because of the sensationalizing that Hollywood and the media and the entertainment industry does in reference to what I do, a lot of times people will come in and expect to have some magical words told to them that is going to, all they have to do is walk through this door at this certain time of the day, and they're going to meet the person of their dreams or get the job of their dreams that they've been looking for. And it's not all about that. It's about, inner peace. It's about creating, sanctity within yourself and being happy with your own company first and being able to, enjoy and love your life for what it is and not always in need of gaining something out of it that's of a material value or some external stimuli like another human being. Probably about 90% of my readings are women clients, and about 90% of that is relationship readings.
Wow.
And as unfortunate as it may be, so often, people are coming in and looking for, how is it that I could make this dysfunctional relationship work? And it's like, well, sometimes you can't make a relationship like that work. Right. And the reason it's like that is because you need to go in a different direction. But so often the ideal is that, they're going to find a relationship partner, and that's what's going to make them happy in life. That's what's going to be, what's going to create peace of mind for them and such. And it doesn't happen that way.
Right.
Yeah, you have to be happy with yourself first.
That's very true. So if somebody just starts walking on a spiritual path, and I know you were not spiritual prior to, and I was always spiritual, but not like I am now. And if you are just starting to search and starting to walk on that path, what are some of the things that you should be aware of, or that little steps you can take heading in that direction?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that. Because like when we talked about not everyone that reads cards or participates in holistic studies as doing so for wholesome reasons, that's one of the things that you should really be careful of. One phenomena that I see happening so often is people come to a point of personal awakening, and because no one else around them in their life has had this happen, they're feeling very alone. So as soon as they, stumble upon someone that seems to be speaking with a lexicon that interests them on a spiritual level, automatically they assume that person is someone that's going to be good for them or someone that they're going to learn from. And far too often, as sad as it may be, there's a lot of predators out there. There's a lot of people out there that like to exploit and manipulate people that are setting out as beginners, and because they've been involved in the world of metaphysics or holistics for a longer time and they have a much richer vocabulary, it doesn't necessarily mean that they live by the concepts that they preach.
Right.
It's no different. It's no different than someone out there searching for spiritual enlightenment through fundamentalist religious practices and such. It unfortunately at times it could wind up becoming an environment that has its own dogmas, and people should be leery of falling into the trap of entering into like little cliques or clubs and things like that really are not the focus of what's supposed to be pursued when you're on a spiritual path. If you're truly secure in your own spirituality, you don't need a clique or minions gathered up behind you to reinforce that, if you follow what I'm saying there.
Yes. Organized. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I agree with you. So, and yet it's good to gather with like-minded people for good, healthy discussion and insight.
Oh, absolutely, yes. I mean, that's a great thing. I mean, that's one of the most wonderful things that we can experience when we're on a spiritual path, is to be, truly surrounded by like-minded people that are on the same path as we are. And I think that, that ideal, that goal is there, whether it be on a conscious or subconscious level, for everyone. And unfortunately, that's where you run into problems. So, always take everyone that you interact with a grain of salt. Don't judge anyone, on behalf of them. Don't judge against them either. Non-judgment means non-judgment, and it doesn't mean that you're judging somebody in favor of something either. You want
Right.
to always look at people with an even keel and make sure that, they really are truly on board with what their talk is.
Right. Exactly. I totally agree with you so much because, I'm, as you know, a coach, and I'm a holistic life coach. So I handle every part of your life, whether you're grieving, whether you have problems with your relationship, whether you have food problems, whatever, I can deal with it. And, so I don't have any set programs. I write the program for you. I don't have a program that here you do this for 1 week and then you do this for 1 week. And other coaches don't work like that. They do. And I'm not saying all, I'm saying some. And what I'm finding is when I talk to different coaches, because I like having different people on my shows, that a lot of them have never lived what they're coaching. And you cannot be empathetic unless you've lived that.
Absolutely. And you see, there's where a lot of what we're all about at New Beginnings separates us from a lot of people that engage in metaphysics and holistic studies is, I set out on this journey probably about 25 years ago. And my wife probably pretty close to as long as that as well, and far too often the world of metaphysics and holistics can be plagued with what I call weekend hobbyists.
Right.
They read a couple of books and attend a weekend seminar, and all of a sudden they can unlock the secrets of the universe. They haven't been out there and had life experiences that are in accordance with this, but somehow they can solve them. And I just don't buy that. That's really no different than young people running around, young people that have lived in the suburbs all their life and have never known a day of hunger at all, walking around trying to call themselves ghetto. It boggles my mind how it is that you can go around calling yourself something like that when you never had those experiences. And what you're talking about is not too far detached from that type of mentality.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And so thus that reinforces everything that you said, to be careful when you're talking to people, explore their knowledge. That's a good motto to have when you're just starting out. Explore their knowledge, ask them questions, see if they resonate with you, because a lot of people won't, and it's okay. And
right,
you just have to find the people that do, and thus form your tribe and your friendships and your guidance and your barometer from those people.
Right, exactly. And, but ultimately, there's one person in this world that's going to be the greatest spiritual teacher to you, above and beyond anyone else could ever possibly be, and that's you.
Right. And you can't do it alone. Yep. That's why, like you said before, I don't care whether you call it God, force, universe, whatever you call it. We're here because of that and no other reason. And that's what causes synchronicity and causes us to seek and all those other things. So, and we all have free will. And so when you go to see a psychic, and you don't have to take it for literally. You don't have to take everything literally. Take it as guidance and use your free will to develop what that person's saying.
Exactly. People far too often come in for readings looking for us to tell them what to do. And that's not what it's all about. Sometimes it's finding out what you need to do. Here's one example that I use very often. I always tell people to make sure that they realize that A psychic reading is not going to take away their personal responsibilities. And at one point in time, this young girl came in for a reading,